You're playing Minecraft with your good friend Steve. You've been progressing through the world all day, but you feel as though Steve's behavior is a bit strange. Then all of a sudden, you get a text from that same friend.
Hey, you wanna get on Minecraft later?
If I'm not playing with Steve right now, then who are you? 5 months ago, I uploaded a YouTube video discussing about a Minecraft channel that had weird things going on, named Simon12. The story is about a kid who documents his journey on trying to beat the game with his friend Angelo. Unbeknownst to Simon, he was never with his friend Angelo, but instead someone who pretended to be him. This someone is Herobrine's brother. If you haven't already, watch the first video to fully understand everything. This is part 2 of Simon12. The video begins with Simon spawning on a pillar in the middle of the void. Although there are random blocks, which I'll get to later, he maneuvers his way down to a crafting table. He then crafts a bed, and then we see what's happening. Simon is stuck in a loop. He can't just leave by jumping into the void because we see that it takes him right back to where he started. Simon is trapped, which is why he uses a bed to try and find another way of killing himself. He heads back down, desperate to find any means of getting out, until we get a message.
He's not a fighter.
Simon then jumps into the void and everything resets until he turns around and we see a sign that says, "Simon says goodbye." He ignores it and instead makes himself a chest to store items. When he jumps into the void again, this time he's given a new sign when he respawns that says, "Simon says Angelo." Angelo being Simon's best friend, the same person that would pretend to be Angelo to trick Simon into thinking he's with his friend. Simon seems to have noticed something because he starts bridging out until he stops and throws an item into the void, but instead of falling into the void, there seems to be a platform, and hiring the exposure, we can tell it's an obsidian platform. Simon then takes a leap. The video ends. Let's start from the beginning. Immediately, we're given a question. Where is Simon? These random pillars I mentioned actually aren't random. In an older episode, when Simon had first entered the end, he started building up an obsidian pillar with the same amount of planks, wool blocks, and andesite. And once he reached the top, he built up 3 more wool blocks, which matches the blocks on these towers. We also remember that Herobrine's brother removed the end island, including all the pillars, which is why Simon is only surrounded by the void and the blocks he placed. If you still don't believe me, at the end of the video, Simon notices what looks to be an obsidian platform, which if you don't know, can naturally generate only in the end dimension. We also get 2 messages that pop up in chat by XXAngelo XX233, aka Simon's friend, saying he's not a fighter. We can tell Angelo is referring to Simon, but right now we don't know the context of the message. As Simon attempts to escape, he's being taunted by Herobrine's brother, with signs saying goodbye or Angelo. It's important to remember that all of this is happening because Angelo summoned the secret Herobrine, which is why this entity goes out its way to clone himself as Angelo, trapping him in this world and pretending to be someone he's not. But Simon realizes the real Angelo has been trapped, and this message shows us that Angelo is still out there. But where is Angelo? And how is Simon going to escape the end if he keeps getting reset every time he dies? Even though the story of the Simon channel stops with this video, I knew I had to dig deeper. And while digging, I decided to check out a channel named Poodleswift, which was the channel that originally created the Simon12 playlist and had access to these unlisted videos. But at the time, the channel had nothing to offer. Until now. A single video on the account. We don't know who runs this, but it's obvious Simon is calling for our help. This is where the hunt for Angelo truly begins. The video begins with a person recording. We don't know who's recording yet, but what we do know is that this spot takes place from an older video on the Simon channel, when Simon found his house built with extra layers of walls and was being haunted by the alternate Herobrine. Then a message is typed in chat with the letters BZFFRB, which I'll just call Beesverb, and we can see the person recording is actually Simon. We don't know what this message means, but the video then cuts, and Simon begins placing a bunch of dirt blocks, but it seems to be a pattern, which I'll get to in a second. We then get another clip of what looks to be Simon writing dashes and underscores on a sign for some reason. Then more messages appear in chat. There's 5 Morse code messages and 5 normal messages. The normal messages seems like a set of directions, saying go to your present Beesverb, step back to the cave ores, there's gold there, and over to the right, further where it didn't check yet. What does this mean? We have no idea. Then the final part of the video has Simon staring into the distance with a book in his hand, with a sign saying, Angelo, you know how to read this cause you taught me. And then he opens up a book, revealing 9 pages of scrambled letters before the video ends. There's 4 moments in this video where Simon communicates to us, the first one being the block placements, which if we take a look at the block placement patterns, we'll see he only uses single blocks or 2 blocks. Single blocks seem to represent a period, and 2 blocks represents a dash, which are the 2 characters used when using Morse code that uses periods and dashes to translate real words. After 30 minutes of following along the pattern, it led me to the translation of, hey, I'm fine, I'm at my base. The second moment is when Simon writes on a sign, which again is Morse code. We have the dashes and the underlines are supposed to be periods, and if we replace them, we're given the translation here yet. The third moment is when Simon is writing normal messages, but in between there's Morse code, which when deciphered gives us a totally different conversation going on.
I want to tell you about a friend of mine. A friend I trust, even if he's the stupidest guy I know. A friend that will know me when I speak, who I will know when he does too. A friend that knows here is not a place that exists without.
And the fourth moment is something that we don't know just yet, but I will mention later in the video. The common theme I noticed between the 4 clips is that they're all hidden messages for Angelo. Simon communicates to Angelo using these tricks to prevent the alternate Herobrine from catching along with what they're talking about. Simon lets Angelo know that he's fine and that he's at his base. He asks him if he's here yet and tells him where to go. There's even a secret message that's made just for Angelo to read, but we don't know what it means exactly. We also don't know what Beesverb means. When he tells him to go to the present Beesverb, what exactly does this mean? As of right now, we don't know, but the description of the video brings us to another piece of evidence. It's a bunch of equal signs and O's saying, put it all here, I gave you the password. Judging that I had to replace certain characters with dashes or periods, I decided to do the same thing with this. The equals replaced with dashes and the O's replaced with periods. And when decoding this Morse code, we're given a brand new channel named Angelo. The video begins with Angelo in a room.
Dark, no room.
We also notice that these messages aren't sent by Angelo. This alternate Herobrine can see what he types even if he doesn't enter it and uses it to pretend that he's Angelo. The roof then opens up and he leaves the room. He looks around and finds himself in a barren wasteland with nothing in sight as he roams this lonely world he's been trapped in. Along the way, we notice he places sand pillars, most likely to trace his steps. We're then given a flashback.
We should race for them.
Okay. Come, I have a strip mine here.
Ready.
Yay.
Angelo reminisces the times he had with Simon, using it as motivation to escape. Angelo then notices something in the distance, and this time without even typing anything, a message is sent in chat. There's something here. This secret Herobrine can't just see the player's screens, but can also read their thoughts. Angelo takes a closer look into the desert pyramid. Inside are 2 beds and 2 chests. And then Angelo seems to be trapped. He then looks inside the chest to see this.
Simon says it's not you.
We've now seen firsthand what happened to Angelo. Not only has he been trapped, but this alternate Herobrine can look at screens and even read the player's minds. It's easy to understand why Simon believed he was communicating to the real Angelo. If you're unaware, at the end of the video, these items we see in the chest are a specific set of materials that were used when summoning this alternate Herobrine. The description reads, "I don't make the rules." Although Angelo understands the position he's in right now, we can tell he's determined to escape and to get him and Simon out of this mess. And in episode Reflect, we'll hopefully see that. The video begins with Angelo still in the desert pyramid.
I've always got a plan, Simon. Just keep going.
But then as he types his third message, Angelo is being taunted. This alternate Herobrine mocks him, believing he'll never escape. Angelo then writes 3 in chat. We can tell Angelo is able to leave, but he chooses not to. But before we can figure that out, we notice someone starts mining. Angelo tries to take a peek while hiding, then barricades himself. Some time passes and he decides to leave his hole. But as Angelo sneaks around to take a closer look, Angelo starts panicking. We then notice an obsidian pillar. He then starts bridging to the top. He takes a good look around his area and the entire world is completely corrupted. Controlled by this Herobrine, Angelo has no choice but to watch. But then he notices something in the distance, and as he starts running...
There. That's what we need for it. Whoever gets the most wins.
No, I got this. How's me gonna help us anyway?
Oh no, not that. Leather. Now you don't need to worry about that.
Hey.
See? We're safe now.
Angelo finds bits and pieces of his memories in this world. This house, this broken nether portal, the scarecrow, are all part of Simon's world that Angelo can remember. Angelo decides to enter the house before the video ends. Now, at first I theorized that Angelo was trapped in a corrupted world made by the alternate Herobrine, but now that might not be the case. While yes, I do think the alternate Herobrine trapped Angelo, I think he's trapped him inside his head. That's why we can see Angelo's memories, and why he's always finding himself in deja vu situations. The alternate Herobrine makes Angelo remember, to really have Angelo remember the good memories he once had, and to show that it'll never come back again. Not to mention, this obsidian pillar can't generate in the overworld like this. Angelo is remembering the end fight. When him and Simon were finally reunited on the top of the end pillar, Angelo's imagination is what causes these structures to be summoned. And in the next episode, we'll start to take a closer look into Angelo's head. The video begins with Angelo investigating the house. He finds a chest with a bunch of materials, Simon's materials, because remember, Angelo is in Simon's house. He grabs everything and makes himself a full set of iron armor. He then creates himself a tower.
Wish you could see this. He's gotta be out there. This is him. This is his home. He's here. He's not a fighter, sure, but he's smart. This is gonna be proof. This channel, something found him, and I don't know how to explain what it is. I don't even know what it is either. You'll see, I guess. Or I guess, you did. Luckily that was a brief conversation. I can't believe he learned how to make a base. Rock on, bro.
Then we hear a glass break. He quickly runs into the house and makes himself a sword, ready to fight off this alternate Herobrine. He looks around before he starts talking to the entity.
I know what you're doing. Ever since I brought you here, you stole him. That's probably not all you steal, is it? You're a parasite. You're the bug we would step on when we walk to school. Do something. Show me how he's gone. How you ever could have taken him. Show me what you are.
He then pulls out a sign.
If I know what it is, I can know how to fight it.
The video then cuts and Angelo notices the obsidian pillar. He starts bridging to it. As Simon arrives at the pillar, he turns around and sees a random chunk floating in the air. When he turns all the way around, we see a floating end island. Angelo doesn't know it yet, but this end island is the only shot he has to escaping this place he's been trapped in. Let's review Angelo's conversation because this gives us more information than we think. For one, we're given context to the message, he's not a fighter. For some reason, throughout the entire monologue, the only messages that were able to reach Simon was those words. In fact, this isn't the first time something like this had happened. Back in the episode Bunker, when Angelo said the words, "dark, no room," we saw the same message on the Simon channel in part 1 of my video, "dark, no room." For some reason, certain messages are able to reach Simon. These words don't seem to really mean anything, it just seems like pure coincidence. That or the alternate Herobrine will allow certain messages to send through to Simon. Maybe this entity does this to allow hope, to make them believe there's a chance they'll reunite because the entity is just that confident it'll never happen. This thing goes above and beyond to not only scare but psychologically torture these kids. And the reason why it does all of this was answered when Angelo said, "Ever since I brought you here, we stole him." We remember the moment Angelo decided to summon this alternate Herobrine. What was supposed to be a funny joke turned into awakening a mysterious entity that now goes out its way to haunt these kids. Worst of all, unlike these other well-known Minecraft entities, this one never reveals itself, with Angelo even saying, "Show me what you are." Although this entity may seem almighty and powerful, that's not totally true. He's gotta be out there. This is him. This is his home. He's here. Why would Angelo say this? Well, this goes back to the secret video on the Poodleswift account. When I was deciphering one of the hidden messages, remember how it turned out to be, "Hey, I'm fine, I'm at my base"? Angelo must have deciphered the message. He found this video and got Simon's message, so he arrived at Simon's base looking for him. Angelo and Simon can still communicate, even if the entity stops them from doing it in-game. Remember, Angelo isn't just a friend of Simon, this is his best friend, who will do anything in his power to get him back. He's not a fighter, sure, but he's smart. This is gonna be proof. He even says, "I can't believe he learned how to make a base, rock on, bro." Angelo has been there to teach Simon everything. Every flashback we're given revolved around Angelo teaching Simon something about Minecraft. Older videos on the Simon channel always had Angelo guiding Simon to teaching him how to play the game. Simon and Angelo's friendship is an unstoppable bond, and they're not gonna let some janky Herobrine getting in the way of reuniting with each other. I'm in a sub race with my friend Flame to 500,000 subscribers. He's predicted to hit it in 3 months while I'm predicted to hit it by next year. If you're enjoying the video, please subscribe because if we hit 500k first, you get a video of me pushing my friend out of a plane, and he hates heights. With that being said, let's continue with the video. Angelo looks around and we notice a bunch of pillars floating on the end island. He jumps onto the island and starts walking until Angelo notices someone. We get a glance of them walking away and Angelo tries to follow them. He goes around the end pillar and we just barely see this random person once again. The video then cuts to Angelo heading back to Simon's base. We can see Angelo starting to plan something, but his plan seems to be unclear as we see him put 2 sand blocks in front of a piston. He quickly goes down and breaks 2 blocks from the roof. He starts setting up a tunnel system. He does this for a few minutes until we get a moment of Angelo staring at a 2-way tunnel, which we can tell resembles the 2-way tunnel Angelo and Simon had when we were given a flashback a few episodes ago. Angelo still seems to hold on to these memories. He begins walking back to the base. This sand block wasn't there just a few moments ago. Angelo realizes this alternate Herobrine is in his world and quickly runs through the tunnel until the video ends. At first, it was hard to tell, but we understand what Angelo was doing here. He set up this pressure plate so that when you step on it, a piece of sand drops exactly on this spot we see here through the open roof. And if Angelo was mining, who could have activated the pressure plate? That's right, the alternate Herobrine. Which reminds me, who was this person that we see here? So although the coloring makes it hard to tell, you can see a lot of resemblances. Right here, you can see the skin tone is the same. You can see the white pixel right here for the eye, as well as the hair. Look at this right here. There's only 1 pixel of skin, and what do you know? Oh, 2 pixels, but you get what I mean. Now that we figured that out, we noticed something interesting. It's been 6 months since we've received any type of footage showcasing what this alternate Herobrine looks like. His whole thing is that he has no identity, but these 2 moments in the video are brand new footage updating us on the identity of this Herobrine. We can tell it's switched out of the Angelo skin and is just a completely black skin. Another thing I want to mention are the pillars we've noticed throughout the few episodes. They're right in your face, but it's easy to forget about. Back in part 1 of my video, we established the alternate Herobrine will do things like create air pockets, aka removing all ores from underground, creating pits from under people's beds, and now I think we're seeing another one. Every entity has their own signature to show that they're in a player's world. With this alternate Herobrine, air pockets, dugout pits, and pillars signify that it's in your world. Although baiting the alternate Herobrine to step on a pressure plate doesn't exactly help Angelo in any way, it does show Angelo what this entity can fall for, so that when there's a real trap for the entity, Angelo will know how to successfully bait it. And in episode 5, we'll hopefully see that.
This is an easy first challenge.
Says you.
I can show you how. There's a lot of ways.
Aren't there like 100? Don't. I want to fight. Let's go.
Good. I'll count down. That's your first obstacle. Good luck. All you have to do is kill me and run.
Hey, that's not fair. Give it back.
I don't make the rules.
Dude, what the heck? What is that?
Where?
Episode 5 focused around an old memory Angelo had. We can tell from the title this flashback takes place from around the year 2017. The first 4 minutes of the video is about the flashback, but I decided to ignore the first minute because nothing really happened, except this one moment where we can see pillars all around Angelo, which again goes back to my theory of pillars being purposely built by the alternate Herobrine. During the flashback, there was something that I found interesting in the beginning of the Angelo channel. I never understood this desert pyramid that Angelo always stayed in. Unlike the end pillar and Simon's house, those were generated because they were a piece of Angelo's memory. But knowing that there's proof of Angelo and Simon encountering a desert pyramid makes me believe the one we see here is the same one Angelo encountered in this video. Although there isn't much that I can say about the desert pyramid, this evidence does help support my claim about every structure we see Angelo encounter are all from his memories he's had with Simon. With that being said, it's time to move on to episode 6, Deceive. Angelo stares at the ground before deciding to jump. But something interesting I notice is the cactuses. We haven't seen anything in this world besides sand and generated structures from Angelo's memory. In fact, the sand design around this area is a bit odd. Based off where we see these dugout holes, there should be a desert pyramid right here. It seems like when we saw the structure disappear, the alternate Herobrine covered it up. But continuing with the video, as Angelo falls to the ground, we get a frame of this scene we saw back in episode 1. Right after, Angelo is in a desert pyramid. Although this isn't a regular pyramid, this one seems to be a bit different. This is where things get interesting. Angelo spends the next 11 minutes placing messages down. Although I can't go over every message that was written, there was a few things that I noticed.
It's stealing valuable things. Ores. Why ores? They make us stronger.
The air pockets that I mentioned earlier exist because there used to be ore blocks there, which the entity removes to keep them weak.
It owns the desert. It doesn't want me to find him. Why is the end here? It made itself known and I didn't notice. The end island shouldn't be here, neither should it. The end island.
He then walks over to a sign that says,
"That's a chance."
and then walks over to another sign that says,
"This is significant. Pillars, dragon, and stone. It wants something else. Something substantial. It's watching me. It's trying to be me. It's replacing me. And Simon won't know the difference."
We then have this happen. All of the messages are sent to burn away before the video ends. The entire video reflects on everything that has occurred over the past few episodes, but throughout this self-reflection, there's this moment that helps us get an idea on Angelo's plan, the End Island. That's a chance. This is important. Pillars, dragon, and stone. Angelo wants to use this End Island as an escape, but how is he going to do that? The End Island has a portal, which if you kill the dragon, opens up, allowing you to enter back into the overworld. The only way to do that though is by killing the Ender Dragon. But like we've seen before, there is no dragon. How do we kill something that isn't alive? I guess we'll have to find out in episode 7. He takes a look at the End Island before entering. He checks the portal, then heads under the floating End Island, figuring out what he can do. He builds a staircase to the End Island and begins climbing up a pillar, and we see him place a torch on the bedrock. He does this again with the next pillar, then does this again. Angelo begins storing a bunch of minecarts. We then have him going into the mines, and we'll notice the air pockets again. Angelo seems to take notice of this. He says that he needs more gunpowder, so we can assume he's trying to craft TNT. We then hear this. Angelo begins running and making his way to the surface. He heads back to the base and we can see the sand and gunpowder in his inventory. We also notice that when he opens the crafting recipe, we can see TNT minecarts as an option. Angelo has these minecarts and needs gunpowder because he wants to make TNT minecarts. But what exactly is he blowing up though? But before we can figure that out, this happens.
I'm going to tell you about a friend I found, and a friend I think I already had. I'm afraid he hasn't seen much of the world, and that's okay. I like having him around. I get to see more of the world when I show him. One day he said something. "Give me a ticket for every movie you make. I know him a lot. I can do this." Portals only spawn when the dragon is dead.
Angelo looks around like he's trying to find something. It's unclear what he's trying to do. He writes down signs saying he wishes the portal would open, then looks around and crafts a ton of buttons, and he begins placing them down until... The video cuts back to Angelo, but the world is pitch black with only the torches providing a light source. Episode 7 and 8 will be turned into one investigation. Back in episode 7, this block we hear break is the same one we heard back in episode 3, except during the time I said, "Then we hear a glass break," but I was wrong. What we're hearing isn't a glass block breaking, but instead a glowstone breaking. Although yes, they do have the same breaking sound, we have to remember 6 months ago during the Simon channel, the only reason why the alternate Herobrine didn't get away with what he did was because he slipped up up in a crucial fact that only the real Angelo would know. Simon told the entity his lamp turned off in his room, and from what we remember, Simon built this very house based off his own room, which he provided that lamp in Minecraft as a glowstone, but it was quickly taken away from him and we never heard about it again. As to why the glowstone is being brought up again, I don't know, but that's as far as I've gotten to it. Moving forward, it's clear that Angelo plans to use minecarts to destroy something. At first, I believe he wanted to destroy the whole world, but that would take too long. Angelo must be looking for something specific. He keeps coming back and mentioning the End Island. Perhaps he wants to destroy it. Speaking of which, we have to go over this incident that occurred at the end of episode 8. I have no idea how to describe it, but whatever it is caused the whole world to go pitch black, and it's obviously being controlled by the alternate Herobrine itself. As we approach the final episode, I don't know how Angelo plans to end all of this while getting Simon back, but let's just say this mysterious ability was the biggest mistake this entity could have made. Angelo uses fire to see the area around him. He briefly mentions about all the bunkers he's created. He takes a look at something and opens his book and quill to write down coordinates. He continues searching, looking for his bridge. For some reason, Angelo can't find the path he created, but he keeps on looking until he eventually finds it. He runs down the bridge, desperate to make it to the base. As he makes his way down, he enters the base and we notice a bed. It wasn't there before. He looks in his chest and all the gunpowder is gone. Where did it go? He then takes a look at the door. Is this even the real Simon? Simon tries to communicate, but Angelo tells him to write it in the book instead. Before I show what's in the book and quill, we need to go back to episode Ethos. During the end of the video, when I mentioned it was a decipher I couldn't understand, this file in the comments of the most recent video was able to help. It was a script that showed Angelo and Simon's conversation and revealed what we're seeing here was a way of communication that Angelo and Simon made that they only knew to talk to each other without the Herobrine knowing. The way it works is a bit complicated. We need to know that it's a Caesar cipher and needs the word Simon. Let's use the word hello there guys as an example. For every word, it needs to have the letters S-I-M-O-N under it, and we have to use the alphabetical number for each letter. S is 19, I is 9, M is 13, O is 15, and N is 14. Each number is for the Caesar cipher shift. So for the word hello, H would be F, E would be R, L would be C, L would be E, and O would be O. And we do that until we get a scramble of letters that don't make any sense to anyone except Simon and Angelo. Now that we know that, we need to know what they say.
Are you real? Can't be real. It can't be him.
Your dad helped you buy my lamp.
You screwed up the second ladder I've helped. Welcome back, man.
Simon and Angelo have reunited, but that still doesn't explain how.
I still don't get it. Why did it let you go? It doesn't make sense. I dropped a small ocean of lava onto it. After luring it with science, there's a way to bait it, but we should assume it's gonna get smarter. In the time I had, I set up plans, and hidden diversions, distractions, but there was this small cube, a missing piece of the sky, that grew until the sky wasn't there anymore.
That must have been massive.
It's using everything on that. That's where all the power is going. There's no energy left, it had to drop you to get me.
Simon and Angelo head their way to the End Island. We're watching from the POV of Simon now, and Angelo gives Simon a button. Confused, Angelo only responds with the word pillar. Simon and Angelo get closer to the center of the End Island, but then We can see this ability slices a layer of the world. If it touches one of them, they're goners. After a few close calls, things start ramping up. Then Simon books it to the bedrock platform. Angelo and Simon use the escape tunnel to safely exit the area after blowing up the end island. We can see that Angelo blew up the end island because theoretically this is where the heart of the Herobrine was. Killing it meant killing the entity all at once. The sky is back to normal, and we even get a shot of the land outside of the desert area that he had Angelo trapped in. After everything that has happened, after countless months of searching, Angelo and Simon have finally reunited. This is the story of
Okay. I have an idea for this one. When I walk through the door and see you, I want you to turn around and see me.
Boys, dinner's ready.
Coming!
Right. I have an idea for the final episode. Sure, let's talk about it after we eat.
What have you boys been up to? Angelo, your mother called. She said she'll be picking you up around